Welcome back. We are still talking about variables and strings in this video. I'll continue from where I left off in the previous one. If you have not watched that one, it would be ideal for you to see it so you'll understand what we are talking about. We are looking at variables and strings, and I have tried to explain what variables are and how we can assign variables and some of the rules we need to take when we're assigning variables. In this video, we'll start talking about data types. I'll give a summary of some of the data types, and of course these are not the only data types we have in Python. I have just listed some of them here. The first one is bool, which stands for boolean, and when we talk about boolean, it's just referring to true or false, if something is true or false. So I'll try to show you how this works in code. I'll close this. Remember, you can close this by pressing Command or Control D. So I'll clear this so we can create enough room for ourselves. And let me go back to Python and we begin to run our code again. If I am to type true, you see it prints out true. And if I type false, it prints out false. Let's take, for instance, you are trying to see if you're trying to make an app and you want to confirm if someone is still active. Remember, when the person is still active, there should be something that you want to indicate, either a green button or so. And then it has to first of all check if the person is active. And if is active is equal to true, then you can do what you want to do. So if I am to print is active now, you'll see it's true. Then we can also try this on, you're making a game and you want to see if the game is over or not. You print another one, game over equals false. That means the game is still on, the person is still playing, equals false. And then somehow when the game finishes, there are some things you have to apply which changes the game over from false to true. That means we can also reassign game over to true. And if we print game over now, we see our result as true. Next up, we can also see something here. The next one is we talk about integers, which we've looked at. When we talk about integers, we're talking about a sequence of we're talking about numbers 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and so on. And then another data type is string, which is represented using str. It's a sequence of Unicode characters. For example, my name, and then we have a word in Hindi, a sentence in Hindi, sorry, which is also a string. We can represent string using single quotes or double quotes. Don't worry, we are going to talk more about strings in this video. Then the next is list. List is another sequence of values of data type. Now we can use various data types and make a list out of it. For example, we have a list of numbers. We have, in this case, a list of strings. And then next, another data type. We have a video on this, so you can check to see that. And then we also have a data type called dictionary, which is a collection of key value pairs. Now, in this case, we are talking about, we want to gather information about me. My first name is the key here, and then it has a value of my name, and then another name, my last name, it has a value. We can also take more information about me, which we can store all this information in a single variable. We are going to see how we do that, but now our emphasis is on string. I should show you something so that we can continue. If I come back to my code, let's see something. We can try to see the type of a particular data type. For instance, I'll declare a string. Let me call this age, and I'll give the age as 20. And I'll also declare another thing, but before I do that, let's talk about strings properly. Strings, like we said here, is a sequence of Unicode characters, and strings can be represented using single quotes or double quotes. That means I can give my name equal, I use double quotes, I put my name in this, and if I print this name, it prints my name. You can see that it prints while my name is in double quotes here, it prints it in single quote. That means there is no difference. I can also print my other name. Let me call this last name. I'll use camel case in this situation, equal single quote I want to use now. And if I am to print this, still you can see there's no difference if we want to use this or this. But there are some situations where you'd prefer to use double quotes, and there are some situations you prefer to use single quote to avoid confusion or you making mistakes. Now let's see if I print something, other name. Now I'll start with single quotes and I'll close with double quote. Let's see what happens. It's giving us an error. We'll dedicate a section to error debugging and error handling, so we get to see what all of this means. So I'll come back to what I was talking about here. Now we've known how to declare a variable. I'll declare age again here, equal 20, which is an integer value, and I'll declare something else, name Sam. If I want to see the data type of whatever is declared, I'll use the keyword type, and in bracket I'll give age. So I made a mistake there, so I'll just quickly correct that, and you see it is an int. If I am to give another one, type of the name, you see it is a string. Let me put a number in a single quote or double quote. I'll call this age 2, and I'll store this in a double quote, let's say 25. For the fact that this has been stored in a double quote, if I am to check the type, you're going to see that it is, for this it is a string, but if I'm to check the type of age 2, for this one it is an integer value, but if I'm to check the type of age 2, it is a string. The reason is because whatever I am putting in a single quote or a double quote is automatically seen by Python as a string. So we are going to go further to look at this, but there is one other data type I would want to talk about, which is here, called none. Love programming, none. I'll first of all do something. Let's save school equals none. I'll now see the type of school. You can see it's saying none type. So what is none? In some languages, if you're coming from previous languages, you see none as null. So it is still the same thing, but in Python, null is referred to as none. I would try to explain this with an example. Let's say we are gathering information of a student, and name of student name equals, I'll call this Akash, and age equals 21, and we want to check if he has backlogs or carryover, as the case may be, whatever you call it, and instead he doesn't have any. Instead of writing 0 or leaving an empty string, we can just put as none. So if we try to see what backlog is, it won't print out anything because nothing is stored in it. That means it doesn't take anything. On the other hand, if we had stored 0, it is going to print out 0. So we're going to see some important cases where we are supposed to use none instead of 0 or an empty string. So that is what I wanted to show us. We can continue. I have already explained how we can declare strings. We can use single quote or double quote. Anyone we want to use is perfect. And then we should try not to start with a single quote and end with a double quote. I want us to look at something here. We should try to avoid syntax error by doing something like this, where I told you there are some situations you would prefer to use single quote and double quote. I'll give us an example. Sentence equals, I'll use a single quote here, he said you are pretty. And then I can now end with a single quote. If I am to run this sentence, you can see I started with a single quote and then this is in double quote. If I did something like this, sentence 2 equals, start with double quote, he said, another one, thank you, and then end again, we're going to get an error. What happens is this: Python sees this as the beginning and the end of the string, so it does not understand what this thing here means, so it returns an error, which means invalid syntax. So, but we're going to also see a means of trying to avoid this, but this is the best way we can try to do it, by using single quotes or double quote. Or we want to say something like, let's put another one, sentence 3. He's fine. I believe you know already that you're going to experience an error here. So instead of doing that, I'll show you it's an error. So instead of doing that, we can use this here, double quotes in the beginning and the ending. And then if we print sentence 3, it works fine. So let's continue. In order to avoid some of these things, we are going to introduce what is called escape character. And escape character are also known as meta characters. It is simple. It is just this backslash we have here, which we can use for a couple of things. We can use it to print a new line. We can use it to make tab. For this example we have here, we have new line equals hello/n world. If we print this new line, we're going to have hello on one line and we have world on the next line. We're going to see examples. So all escape characters starts with backslash, which as we can see here. So this is what I mean when I said we can be able to bypass some of those errors using this escape character. How is today? An example stored in X, but now we are using single quotes in all, but before the single quote we placed a backslash, which Python tells, okay, whatever is after this backslash you should consider as it should be. So if we're to, I'll just copy this and paste here. Let me remove the output which I had already placed here. So if I'm to run this, you can see it works perfectly. So that means if we come back to this sentence 2, what we had here that gave us an error, if we placed a backslash here, I'll just copy this from here and I'll call this Y and I'll paste here. And if I place a backslash here and another one here and I run this, we can now print Y and you see it is correct. So that's that. Next, we're going to talk about concatenation of strings. And when we talk about concatenation of strings, it's about combining multiple strings together. We combine strings using the addition operator. So let's see how we can do that. I have my first name Caleb and my other name Chinonso. I can create a full name, which I'll then include first name plus last name and then print full name. In some cases, you're creating an app and you have a box which you ask the user. I'll go out of this clear, and so I'll want us to see what we're doing. So as I was saying, you're making an app and the app requires first name. We've not told you how you can get first name from user, but let's say the app requires first name and then the person gives his first name as Swati, and then last name, person gives last name as Reddy. So, and then in the log, after the person logs in, you want to print a statement called welcome Swati Reddy or Reddy Swati, depending on your wish. You can do that by doing something like full name. You declare another one called full name. We've started using this snake case, so let's continue with that. We can print full name, first name, plus we create a space plus last name. So if we print this, if we print full name, we are going to get Swati ready. So if we want to add a welcome, we can do something like this: welcome space. We can do something like this: print in bracket welcome. This is a string, so remember we have to put in quotes welcome plus. So let's make a space here. So I'll do something without the space first. Welcome full name. So if we print this, now it is combined here. That is why you need to remember to do this. Now we print again, we get this. So that is how we can do concatenation. And let me show you another thing we can do. We can perform concatenation with number. Let's say we have first name. We can do something like first name times 3. It prints it 3 times in a string. So this is another thing we can do with Python. So we can continue. We can also use this operator to print something, to concatenate string. I have shown you how you use that before, but let's say we want to greet someone. We say greet, we store in a variable greeting we store good, and then based on the time we can either add good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on what we're trying to make. So we've stored good, and then it is afternoon. If you use the daytime, well, let's not go into that. We can do something like this: greeting plus equal space morning. That means we want to create a space. So if we print out greeting, we see good morning. In the same way, we can do that to afternoon, or as the case may be, but we already stored this now. These are static variables because the values are stored automatically. But when you're trying to build an app, you won't use static variables. We'll see how we can do that. Okay, this is what I just explained now. Then let's talk about formatting strings. Talking about formatting strings, there are several ways we can format string. The first one is f string. That means we have a sentence and we want to add something to it. We can use the f string to do that. I'll give an example based on the one we've seen here: age equal 12. And then we want to print a sentence, or let's say we have a sentence. We want to print a sentence which says she is 12 years old. But what we do now is we put these curly braces and we add the value here, years old, and we close this. But before this first quote, we add this f sign here and enter. You can see she is 12 years old. My name is still stored there, so I can print something like print f is name is. Now I can put my name here, first name, comma, sorry, I have to close this, comma, his sister is age years old. So if I am to print this, okay, I'm supposed to close that. So if I'm to print this, you see his name is Swati. I think I changed this somewhere. Okay, that I didn't use my name, I used Swati. So you can see it's supposed to be her name, but you understand what I'm talking about because we're referring to a she there. So this is the new one that came up from Python 6.3 upwards. There are some previous ones which you can see if you look at other people's code. It's almost the same thing, but it is done in this way. I'll print something else, same thing with the example I have. Her name is, and I'll just put this like this. We close this, and then after this we include dot format, and we include what we have there, first name, and then we close this. So if we print that, you can see what happens is this: the value here is stored here. So if we have some other ones that are, I'll take for instance, and her other name is. So now I can come here and I put a comma here and I include last name. So if I print this, you can see what we have here. Now I can change this. I can put 0 here in. I can put 0 in this. I just want you to understand this in case you see someone else's code or tutorial, you can understand what we're doing. And I put 1 here. So what happens here after this dot format, this is 0, this is 1. So replacing it like this, instead of having her name is Swati and the other name is Reddy, we'll have her name is Reddy and the other name is Swati. So you can see that is how it works. And then this is the old one. I'm not going to talk about this, but this is how it works. Her name is %d. For like what we're doing, her name is %d, and then %d, you put in brackets the value, and that is how you can do it.